the knife pressed cold against her ribs. "Don't move or she gets hurt," the masked man snarled, his voice echoing through the frozen aisles of Campbell's supermarket. Vivian Cross, the youngest CEO in tech history, felt her breath stop. Around her, phones lifted, not to help, but to record. Then a calm voice cut through the chaos. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten." Every head turned. The man holding the shopping cart didn't look like a hero, but tonight he would become one. Stay with me until the very end of this story and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this journey goes. The fluorescent lights of Campbell's supermarket buzzed with their usual Tuesday evening hum, casting that sterile white glow over rows of cereal boxes and discount wine. It was 6:47 p.m. prime time for the after-work rush when exhausted parents grabbed dinner ingredients and office workers hunted for quick meals before heading home to Netflix and silence. Noah Cole stood in the pasta aisle, one hand on his shopping cart, the other holding a crumpled piece of lined paper covered in his daughter's careful handwriting. Purple crayon. Always purple. "Daddy, did you get the shells?" Lily's voice piped up from beside him, her sneakers lighting up with each bounce, pink and silver, her favorite colors. "Checking now, sweetheart." Noah's voice carried that particular brand of tired that came from working 2 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. His eyes gray-blue, the kind that had seen too much, scanned the shelves with methodical precision. Medium shells, small shells, jumbo shells. Of course they were out of the medium ones. Of course. The purple list says, "Medium shells, Daddy." Lily looked up at him with those impossibly earnest brown eyes, clutching her stuffed bear Mr. Buttons against her chest. "Teacher says following directions is important." Noah felt his chest tighten, the way it always did when she said things like that. So serious, so grown up for 8 years old. Too grown up, maybe. That's what happened when your mom died before your 7th birthday, and your dad had to become both parents at once. "You're absolutely right, honey." He crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. The red string bracelet on his wrist, handmade, lumpy, perfect, caught the light. She'd made it for him 6 months ago after his therapist told her that Daddy sometimes got scared and needed help staying calm. "When you wear it, Daddy, you can remember I'm always with you even when I'm at school." God, he loved this kid. "How about we get small shells instead? We can cook them a little less, and they'll be just like medium ones." "Deal." Lily considered this with the gravitas of a Supreme Court justice. Finally, she nodded. "Deal. But can we get the good sauce? The one with the tomato on the label?" "Absolutely." Noah straightened up, his knees cracking 35 going on 60, his body reminded him daily. He grabbed 2 boxes of small shells and tossed them in the cart, then headed toward the sauce aisle. That's when he saw her. Vivian Cross stood in the wine section, her phone pressed to her ear, her free hand gesturing sharply as she spoke. Even in casual Tuesday evening mode, designer jeans, cashmere sweater, hair pulled back, she radiated that specific energy of someone who was used to being the most important person in any room. Noah recognized her instantly. Hard not to when she'd fired 3 people in IT last month for missing a deadline by 2 hours. He'd been lucky to escape with just public humiliation. "Can someone explain to me why the slow IT guy needs 45 minutes to reset a password? My grandmother could do it faster and she's been dead for 6 years." The entire conference room had laughed. Noah had stood there expressionless and finished the job. Then he'd gone to the men's room, locked himself in a stall, and pressed his palms against his eyes until the shaking stopped. 3 weeks later, he'd taken a voluntary demotion to night security guard, fewer hours less pay, but also fewer meetings with Vivian Cross. "Daddy, that lady looks mad," Lily whispered, tugging on his sleeve. Noah glanced over. Vivian was snapping at whoever was on the phone, her voice cutting through the ambient supermarket noise. "I don't care if Brad thinks we should wait for Q4. I want those numbers by Friday, or I want his resignation letter. Those are his options. Some people are just like that, sweetheart. Let's get your sauce and—" The doors at the back of the store burst open. Two men in dark jackets and baseball caps strode in, moving with purpose. Wrong kind of purpose. Noah's instincts, the ones he'd spent 6 years trying to bury under dad jokes and bedtime stories, lit up like Christmas. Military gait, eyes scanning, hands in pockets but shoulders tense. His therapist called it hypervigilance. The Army had called it situational awareness excellence. His ex-wife had called it living in the past instead of the present. She might have been right, but it had also kept him alive through 2 tours in places where the wrong move meant body bags. Noah's hand tightened on the shopping cart. "Lily, honey, stay close to Daddy, okay?" "Okay." She pressed Mr. Buttons closer, picking up on his tension the way kids always did. The two men split up. One headed toward the registers, positioning himself with a clear view of the exits. The other moved toward the wine aisle, toward Vivian Cross. Noah's heart rate kicked up. He touched the red string bracelet, breathed, "You're in Campbell's supermarket, not Kandahar," and tried to think rationally. Maybe they were just shoppers. Maybe he was being paranoid. Maybe 6 years away from active duty meant his threat assessment was rusty, and the second man pulled a knife. Not a big one. Not some dramatic Rambo survival blade, just a simple 4-inch folding knife, the kind you could buy at any hardware store for $12. It was pressed against Vivian Cross's ribs before she even realized he was behind her. "Don't move," the man said quietly. "Don't scream. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The wine bottle Vivian had been holding slipped from her fingers and shattered against the floor. The sound, sharp crystalline, cut through the ambient noise of the supermarket like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Noah's training kicked in with the cold clarity of muscle memory. Assess. Count. Calculate. 2 hostiles. 1 with knife close quarters combat range with primary target. 1 at exit likely armed position, suggests backup extraction role. Approximately 40 civilians in store. Exit routes. Front doors blocked emergency exit. Rear 20 meters. Delivery entrance. Unknown status. Available weapons. Shopping cart. Canned goods. Glass bottles. "Daddy." Lily's voice was small. "It's okay, baby. We're okay." He put himself between her and the men without thinking about it. Instinct. The same instinct that had kept his unit alive when the market in Kandahar turned into a kill zone. The man with the knife was speaking now, his voice low, but carrying in the sudden silence. "We're going to walk to the back. You're going to come quietly. You're going to get in the van. Nobody gets hurt if you cooperate." Vivian's face had gone pale. I have money. Credit cards. You can have—" "We don't want your money, Ms. Cross." The man's voice was professional, practiced. This wasn't his first time. "We want you to come with us. There are people who need to talk to you about some patents your company owns. Some intellectual property that doesn't belong to you." Corporate kidnapping. Noah's jaw tightened. Of course. Someone like Vivian Cross didn't get grabbed for her purse. She got grabbed for her billion-dollar company. Around them, the other shoppers were doing what people always did in these situations. They looked away. They pretended not to see. They pulled out phones not to call 911, but to record, to post, to share. One woman actually whispered to her friend, "Is that Vivian Cross? Oh my God, this is going to get so many views." Noah felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear, something else. Something that his therapist had worked very hard to help him unlearn, because it wasn't healthy for a single dad raising a little girl. Rage. Not the hot kind. The cold kind. The kind that came from watching people treat human suffering like entertainment. The kind that came from knowing that every single adult in this store could help, and every single one of them was choosing to watch instead. The man started moving Vivian toward the back of the store, the knife still pressed against her side. His partner, still near the registers, scanned the crowd with professional detachment, daring anyone to try something. Nobody did. And then Lily's teddy bear fell. It slipped from her hands, she'd been clutching it too tight, her 8-year-old brain trying to process what was happening, and tumbled to the floor with a soft thump. Mr. Buttons landed right in the path of the man dragging Vivian toward the exit. The man kicked it aside without looking down, just a casual flick of his boot, sending the stuffed animal skittering across the tile. Lily made a small sound, not quite a cry, but close. And something in Noah Cole snapped. Not into rage, not into fear, into clarity. He'd spent 6 years trying to be a normal person, a normal dad. Someone who worked and pulled night security shifts and made mac and cheese from a box, because that's what his daughter liked. Someone who went to therapy every Wednesday and took his medication and didn't think about the things he'd done in places most Americans couldn't point to on a map. But the thing about training, real training, the kind that gets drilled into you until it's not something you do but something you are, is that it doesn't go away. It just waits. Noah looked down at Lily. Her eyes were wide fixed on Mr. Buttons lying on the floor between them and the armed men. He knelt down slowly, bringing himself to her level again. "Lily, honey, I need you to do something for me." "Okay, Daddy." Her voice trembled. "I need you to close your eyes and count to 20. Can you do that?" "But Mr. Buttons..." "I'll get Mr. Buttons, I promise. But first you need to count for me. Close your eyes, count slow, and when you get to 20, you can open them. Okay?" She looked at him with those impossibly trusting brown eyes. "You promise?" "I promise. On my life, sweetheart. I'll be right here." Lily squeezed her eyes shut and started counting. 1, 2, 3. Noah stood up. His hand went to the shopping cart. In it, 2 boxes of pasta shells, 1 can of tomato sauce, a 2-liter bottle of Sprite. Lily loved Sprite, a roll of paper towels, random Tuesday evening groceries, also known as an improvised weapon system. He'd taught hand-to-hand combat to Marines. He'd cleared buildings in Fallujah with nothing but a sidearm and the man next to him. He'd walked into situations that should have killed him and walked out alive because he understood something fundamental about violence. It wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being the calmest. Noah picked up the bottle of Sprite and gave it 3 hard shakes. The man dragging Vivian was 10 feet away, now moving toward the emergency exit. His partner was still at the registers watching the crowd. 4, 5, 6. Lily counted, her eyes scrunched closed. Noah unscrewed the cap halfway. "Hey," he said. His voice was calm, conversational, the same tone he used when asking Lily what she wanted for breakfast. Both men turned to look at him. Noah met the eyes of the man with the knife. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten." Then he popped the cap. The carbonated soda, pressurized from shaking, released in a focused stream, shot out like a fire hose. It hit the man with the knife square in the face at close range, a blast of sticky liquid and foam that sent him stumbling backward, hands flying to his eyes, knife clattering to the floor. Noah was already moving. He slammed the shopping cart forward with both hands, using every ounce of his 185 pounds behind it. The metal frame caught the man in the midsection like a battering ram, folding him over and sending him crashing into the wine display behind him. Bottles exploded in a cascade of glass and Cabernet. 7, 8, 9, Lily counted. The second man at the registers was reaching into his jacket gun. Noah's brain supplied automatically, but Noah was faster. He grabbed the roll of paper towels from his cart and threw it like a discus. It wasn't about damage. It was about disruption. The roll hit the man in the shoulder, buying Noah exactly the 2 seconds he needed to close the distance. Paper towels, a shopping cart, a bottle of soda. That's what the news would report later, with that mixture of disbelief and amusement. Local dad stops kidnappers with grocery store items. But Noah wasn't thinking about the news. He was thinking about the gun coming out of the second man's jacket, and he was thinking about Lily counting behind him, and he was thinking about every combat instructor who'd ever told him that improvised weapons were just tools waiting to be used correctly. He grabbed a wine bottle from the shelf. one of the expensive ones heavy glass, and brought it down on the second man's gun hand in a sharp, controlled strike. The gun fell. The man swore and swung at Noah's face. Noah ducked muscle memory, hundreds of hours of sparring, and drove his elbow into the man's solar plexus. The man folded, gasping. 12. 13. 14. The first man was struggling to his feet, clawing at his eyes, still blinded by soda. Noah grabbed the paper towels again. God bless bulk shopping, and wrapped them around the man's wrists, using the plastic packaging like improvised zip ties. He pressed the man face down into the puddle of wine and soda and shattered glass. "Don't move," Noah said quietly. "I really don't want to hurt you more than I already have. But I will if you make me." The man stopped struggling. Noah looked up. The second man was trying to reach for his gun. Noah stepped on his hand, not hard enough to break anything, just hard enough to pin it, and picked up the weapon. He ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and tossed both pieces in opposite directions. The entire store was silent except for Lily's voice. 18, 19, 20. Noah turned. His daughter stood exactly where he'd left her, eyes squeezed shut, hands clasped in front of her. Mr. Buttons lay on the floor 3 feet away, one button eye staring up at the fluorescent lights. Noah walked over, picked up the stuffed bear, and knelt down in front of Lily. "Okay, honey, you can open your eyes now." She did, blinked, looked at him, looked at Mr. Buttons in his hands, looked past him at the 2 men on the floor, both groaning, one covered in soda and wine and broken glass. "Daddy." "I got Mr. Buttons," Noah said softly. He handed her the bear. "Just like I promised." Behind him, Vivian Cross stood frozen in the wine aisle, her phone still clutched in her hand, her mouth open in shock. Around them the crowd stared. Someone's phone was still recording. And Noah Cole, single father, IT technician, night security guard, former Army Ranger, stood up and pulled his own phone from his pocket. "Hi, yes, 911, I'm at Campbell's Supermarket on Roosevelt Avenue. I need police. 2 men just attempted to kidnap someone. They're restrained. No one seriously hurt." He paused, listening. "Yes, I'll stay on the line." He looked down at Lily. She was hugging Mr. Buttons, her eyes wide, taking everything in with that frightening intelligence that kids had when the world suddenly showed them something new and confusing. "Daddy, why did those men want to hurt that lady?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but they're not going to hurt anyone now." "Because you stopped them." "Yeah." With Sprite. Despite everything, Noah felt a smile tug at the corner of his mouth. "Yeah, with Sprite." Lily processed this. Then, "Can we still get it? I'm thirsty." And there it was. The resilience of children. The ability to witness something traumatic and still ask for soda because soda was important, and it was Tuesday, and Tuesdays meant Sprite with dinner. "We'll get more Sprite, honey, I promise." The police arrived 6 minutes later. 3 cars, sirens wailing, officers moving with quick efficiency. They took one look at the scene, 2 men on the floor, one covered in sticky liquid and broken glass, one clutching his ribs, and their hands went to their weapons. "I'm the one who called," Noah said immediately, hands visible, phone still in one hand. "These men attempted to kidnap this woman. I restrained them. I'm unarmed. My daughter is with me. I'm going to reach into my pocket very slowly and show you my ID." The lead officer, a woman in her 40s with sergeant stripes, nodded, slowly. Noah moved carefully, extracting his wallet and showing his license. His military ID was still in there too, behind the driver's license. Old habits. The sergeant's eyes flicked to it. Something shifted in her expression. "You're military." "Was. Army. Discharged 6 years ago." "Combat." 2 tours, Iraq and Afghanistan." She studied him for a moment longer, then holstered her weapon. "Okay, Mr. Cole, let's hear what happened." Noah explained, concise, factual, no embellishment. The kind of after-action report he'd given 100 times in another life. While he talked, EMTs checked the two men. One of them, the wine aisle guy, was still whimpering about his eyes. Noah almost felt bad. Sprite in the eyes hurt like hell. Almost. The sergeant looked at Vivian Cross. "Ma'am, do you know these men?" Vivian shook her head. She looked shell-shocked, her usual commanding presence completely shattered. "No, I've never seen them before. They said something about patents, about my company owning something that didn't belong to me." "Corporate espionage," the sergeant said. "Or industrial kidnapping. We've been seeing more of it. You're going to need to come to the station and make a statement." "Of course. Yes. Whatever you need." Vivian's eyes kept drifting to Noah. You work for me. At Crosstech. You're the IT guy. The one who—" She trailed off. Noah knew what she was going to say. "The one I humiliated in front of the entire executive team. The one I called slow. The one I treated like garbage." "Yeah," he said simply. "I work for you." "Why would you—" She seemed genuinely confused. "After how I treated you, why would you help me?" Noah looked down at Lily. She was watching the exchange with interest, clutching Mr. Buttons. "Because that's what we do," he said quietly. "We help people who need help, even when it's not easy, even when they don't deserve it. That's what makes us human." Vivian's face flushed. She opened her mouth, closed it again. One of the officers was searching the first man and pulled out a phone. "Sarge, you're going to want to see this." The sergeant took the phone, scrolled through it. Her expression darkened. "Mr. Cole, you said these men mentioned patents." That's what they told Ms. Cross, that she had intellectual property that didn't belong to her. These text messages suggest this was a planned extraction, professional job. They were supposed to take her to a secondary location for negotiation. The sergeant's voice dripped with disdain. "We're looking at conspiracy to kidnap, possibly interstate trafficking. This is federal." The FBI would be involved within the hour. Noah knew that protocol. He also knew that this meant statements, interviews, maybe even protective custody for Vivian until they figured out who'd hired these guys, none of which was his problem. "Am I free to go?" he asked. "My daughter needs dinner." The sergeant looked at Lily, then back at Noah. "We'll need a statement, but it can wait until tomorrow. Come by the precinct around 10 a.m. "I'll be there." "Mr. Cole—" Vivian's voice stopped him as he started to turn away. I want to." She fumbled for words, this woman who never fumbled, who always knew exactly what to say and how to say it to maximum effect. "Thank you. You saved my life." Noah looked at her, really looked at her. Saw past the designer clothes and the CEO title and the mean comments in conference rooms. Saw someone who was scared and shaken, and for the first time maybe in her entire adult life, realizing that money and power meant nothing when someone pressed a knife to your ribs. "You're welcome," he said. Then he took Lily's hand and walked toward the checkout lanes. Behind them, police radios crackled. EMTs loaded the two men onto gurneys. Someone was already setting up crime scene tape around the wine aisle. Noah grabbed a fresh 2-liter of Sprite on the way to the register. The cashier, a teenager with pink streaks in her hair, stared at him with wide eyes as she scanned his items. "Dude, sir, that was... Are you okay?" "Just fine, thanks." Noah paid in cash. The red string bracelet on his wrist caught the light again as he handed over the bills. Lily tugged on his hand as they walked to the car. "Daddy." "Yeah, sweetheart. Are you a superhero?" Noah unlocked the car and helped her into her booster seat, buckling her in carefully. "No, honey, I'm just your dad." "But you saved that lady, like in the movies." "The movies aren't real. This was real. And in real life, we just do what we need to do to keep people safe. Because that's what makes us human." "Exactly." She thought about this as he loaded the groceries into the trunk. Then, "Daddy, I'm adding something to my list." "Oh yeah, what's that?" She held up the purple crayon she always kept in her pocket. At the bottom of the shopping list below, medium shells and good sauce. She wrote in careful block letters, "Help people who need help." Noah felt his throat tighten. He crouched down and pulled her into a hug, breathing in her little kid smell of strawberry shampoo and grape juice and possibility. "That's a really good thing to add to the list, Lily. Because you helped that lady even though she was mean to you." "Yeah. So we should help everyone, even mean people." "Especially mean people," Noah said, "because sometimes mean people are just scared people who forgot how to be kind." They drove home through Tuesday evening traffic. The radio played soft rock. Lily hummed along to a song she didn't know the words to. Noah's hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind was racing. This was going to be news. The cell phone videos were probably already uploading. By tomorrow morning, "Dad stops kidnapping with soda" would be trending on Twitter. The news vans would find his apartment. Reporters would want interviews. His face would be everywhere. And Vivian Cross would remember, would realize, would put together that the slow-it guy she'd mocked and demoted was actually someone who'd saved her life with nothing but grocery store items and 6 years of buried combat training. Noah sighed. "Daddy, are you okay?" "Yeah, honey, I'm okay. Your bracelet is helping." He looked at the red string around his wrist. "Yeah, it's helping." "Good." Lily went back to humming. At home, a small 2-bedroom apartment that smelled like clean laundry and the lavender plug-in, Lily insisted made everything smell like happiness. Noah made mac and cheese, the cheap kind from the box because that's what 8-year-olds liked and what single dads could afford. While the pasta boiled, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but habits from another life made him check. Noah Cole. "Mr. Cole, this is Detective Martinez with the 47th Precinct. We've been reviewing security footage from the supermarket. I wanted to give you a heads up. What you did tonight was remarkable. You're going to get a lot of attention." "I figured." "The FBI is very interested in talking to you. Those men were professionals, very professional. And the way you handled them, that wasn't luck. That was training, high-level training." Noah stirred the pasta. "I was Army. It's public record. Rangers, 2 tours. Honorable discharge with commendations." Martinez paused. "Mr. Cole, this is bigger than a simple kidnapping attempt. We found evidence on those men's phones that suggests they were hired by a corporate competitor of Crosstech. This was industrial espionage combined with planned intimidation. You stopped something that could have resulted in Ms. Cross's death. I stopped 2 guys from hurting someone, that's all. That's not all, and you know it. Look, I'm calling because I want you to be prepared. This is going to go viral. Your face is going to be everywhere. And there are going to be a lot of questions about why a night security guard has the skills to disarm 2 professional operatives with grocery store items. Are you asking me to lie? I'm asking you to be careful. The media loves a hero story, but they also love to dig. And sometimes what they dig up can hurt people, including daughters." Noah's hand tightened on the phone. "Are you threatening me?" "God, no. The opposite. I'm trying to help. I was military too. Marines. I know what it's like to come home and try to be normal. I know what it's like to have skills you can't talk about and nightmares you can't explain. I just want you to be ready." "I appreciate that, Detective. One more thing. Ms. Cross is asking about you. She wants to talk to you, off the record. I told her I'd pass along the message. She knows how to find me. I still work for her company. For now." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just be ready for things to change, Mr. Cole. You're not invisible anymore." The call ended. Noah drained the pasta and added the cheese powder and milk, stirring it into that artificially orange consistency that Lily loved. He called her for dinner. She came running. Mr. Buttons tucked under her arm and climbed into her chair. "Did you add the extra cheese powder like I like? Double scoop. You're the best daddy ever." They ate together at the small kitchen table, talking about her day at school. They were learning about butterflies and her homework math, which she liked, And whether they should watch a movie after dinner? Yes? Definitely yes. Normal. This was what normal looked like. But Noah knew the way he'd known when the two men walked into the supermarket with the wrong kind of purpose, that normal was over. The world had seen him. Not the version of him that fixed printers and pulled night shifts and made mac and cheese from a box. The other version. The one he'd tried to bury. And once the world saw you, it didn't let you go back to invisible. He looked at Lily happily eating her mac and cheese, oblivious to the storm that was coming. She'd added to her list today. Help people who need help. Noah touched his red string bracelet and made a silent promise. Whatever came next, whatever changed, he would make sure that lesson stuck. That she grew up knowing that real courage wasn't loud or flashy. It was quiet and human, and showed up when nobody else would. Even if that meant using a bottle of Sprite and a shopping cart to save someone who'd never shown you kindness, especially then. Outside, somewhere in the city, news vans were already organizing. Social media was exploding. The FBI was building a case, and Vivian Cross was sitting in a police station, giving her statement thinking about the man who'd saved her life. But in the small apartment that smelled like lavender and mac and cheese, a father and daughter finished dinner, washed dishes together, and settled on the couch to watch Finding Nemo for the 100th time. Because that's what Tuesdays were for. And tomorrow, when the cameras and the questions and the consequences arrived, would take care of itself. The knock came at 6:14 a.m. Noah was already awake. Old habits, the kind that never left even when you wanted them to. Standing in the kitchen making coffee, while Lily slept in her room, surrounded by stuffed animals and glow-in-the-dark stars. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, painting the sky that particular shade of gray-blue that reminded him of winter mornings in another life. He knew what the knock meant before he even looked through the peephole. 3 news vans were parked on the street below. A reporter in a red blazer stood at his door, cameraman behind her, both looking far too awake for this ungodly hour. Noah didn't open the door. Instead, he texted his neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who lived across the hall, and watched Lily sometimes when his shifts overlapped. She was 72, originally from Taiwan, and had a grandmother's instinct for when something was wrong. The response came back immediately. I see them. Do you need help? Can you take Lily to school this morning? Back door. Of course. Give me 10 minutes. Noah moved quietly through the apartment, laying out Lily's school clothes, packing her lunch with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Peanut butter and jelly cut diagonally, because she insisted triangles tasted better than rectangles. Apple slices with a little lemon juice, so they wouldn't brown. The purple crayon in her pencil case always. He woke her gently, hand on her shoulder. Morning, sweetheart. She blinked up at him, her hair a mess of tangles. Is it school time already? Yeah, honey. And Mrs. Chen is going to take you today. I have to go talk to some people about what happened yesterday. Lily sat up, suddenly more alert. The people at the store, the ones you helped. Something like that. Come on, let's get you ready. While she brushed her teeth, Noah's phone buzzed continuously. Text messages, missed calls. Email notifications piling up so fast, the phone seemed to vibrate with a life of its own. He glanced at the screen. 17 missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. 43 text messages. An email from Crosstech's HR department marked urgent. He turned the phone face down and helped Lily into her jacket. Mrs. Chen met them at the service entrance, her weathered face creased with concern. Noah, the television is showing you. Channel 7, Channel 9, all of them. They are saying you are a hero. I'm just a dad who had groceries to buy. Mrs. Chen's sound of disapproval was universal across all languages. Heroes always say things like that. Come, Lily, we take the long way to school. Yes? Maybe stop for hot chocolate. Lily's face lit up. Can we, Daddy? Of course. Be good for Mrs. Chen. Okay, I'll pick you up this afternoon like always. Okay. She hugged him tight and he breathed in that strawberry shampoo smell, letting it ground him. Daddy. Are the people on TV going to say nice things about you? I hope so, sweetheart. They should, because you're the best. After they left, Noah stood in his empty apartment and let himself have 60 seconds of silence. Just 60 seconds to prepare for what came next. Then he poured his coffee into a travel mug, grabbed his jacket, and headed out the front door. The reporter in the red blazer pounced immediately. Mr. Cole, Rachel Martinez, Channel 7 News. Can you tell us how you felt when you realized someone was in danger? Noah kept walking toward his car keys already in hand. No comment. Our viewers are calling you a hero. What do you say to that? I say I'm late for work. Is it true you're former military? Is that where you learned? Noah stopped, turned, looked directly at the camera with the same flat, emotionless expression he'd perfected during 2 tours of being shot at by people who wanted him dead. I'm a single father who works 2 jobs to support my daughter. Yesterday I saw someone in trouble and I helped. That's the whole story. Now please let me get to work. He got in his car and drove away, watching in the rearview mirror as the reporter spoke excitedly into her microphone, probably narrating his mysterious departure for the morning news. The drive to Crosstech took 23 minutes through rush hour traffic. Noah used the time to mentally prepare. He'd already decided what he was going to do: show up for his security shift, like normal file, the incident report, like protocol demanded, and pray that this 15 minutes of fame died down before Lily's classmates started treating her differently. The parking lot at Crosstech was busier than usual for 7 a.m. Noah recognized the pattern immediately, people arriving early because something exciting had happened, and they wanted to talk about it. Office gossip was a universal constant, apparently even more powerful than the snooze button. He parked in his usual spot and headed for the employee entrance. Made it exactly 12 feet before someone called his name. Noah, holy shit, man, is it true? Marcus from IT, young guy, enthusiastic, the kind who wore Star Wars shirts on Casual Friday, jogged across the parking lot, waving his phone. Dude, you're everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. Someone made a compilation video of all the different camera angles from the supermarket. It's got like 3 million views. Marcus, I really just need to get to work. Are you kidding? You took down 2 armed kidnappers with a bottle of soda. That's the most badass thing anyone in this building has ever done, and we have a whole department of cybersecurity experts who think they're tough because they stopped a phishing scam. Despite everything, Noah felt a smile tug at his mouth. It was Sprite, actually. Even better. Oh man, the interns are losing their minds. They're in the break room watching the videos on loop. You should see your face in the footage. You look so calm, like you're just buying milk or something, and then bam, you just lay these guys out like it's nothing. They reached the employee entrance. Noah scanned his badge. It wasn't nothing. It was necessary. There's a difference. Yeah, but wait, are you really working your shift today? After all that, why wouldn't I? Because you're famous. Because the CEO you saved is probably going to want to talk to you. Because... The elevator doors opened and Marcus stopped mid-sentence. Vivian Cross stood inside alone, wearing a different outfit than yesterday, but the same shell-shocked expression. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wasn't wearing any jewelry except for a watch that probably cost more than Noah's car. Their eyes met. Marcus looked between them suddenly, realizing he'd stumbled into something significant. I'm gonna take the stairs. Yeah. Stairs are good for cardio. See you later, Noah. He practically fled. Noah stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. Silence stretched between them like a physical thing. Vivian spoke first, her voice quieter than he'd ever heard it. I've been waiting for you. Security said you usually arrive around 7 for the night shift prep. I do. I needed to talk to you. Before everything gets complicated. Noah pressed the button for the basement level, where the security office was located. Everything's already complicated, Ms. Cross. Vivian, please. After what you did, I think we're past formalities. The elevator descended. Noah watched the floor numbers change a perfect excuse not to look at her. But her reflection was visible in the polished steel doors, and he could see her hands were shaking. "I spent all night thinking about what you said," she continued. "About helping people even when they don't deserve it. Even when they've been cruel. It's not about deserving. It's about doing what's right." "I know. That's what makes it worse." Her voice cracked slightly. "I was horrible to you, in that meeting in front of everyone. I humiliated you deliberately because I was having a bad day and you were convenient. And then months later, when I'm the one in danger, you risk your life for me without hesitation." The elevator reached the basement. The doors opened. Noah didn't move. "I need you to understand something," Vivian said, turning to face him fully. "I've spent my entire adult life fighting to be taken seriously. Building Crosstech from a startup in my garage to a company worth billions. I learned to be hard because being soft meant being crushed. I learned to be cruel because being kind meant being weak. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that strength and kindness aren't opposites." Noah finally looked at her, really looked at her, saw past the CEO, past the person who'd mocked him, saw just another human being trying to make sense of trauma. "You could have died yesterday," he said quietly. "That kind of experience changes people. Don't confuse gratitude with actual change. Real change takes time." "I know. That's why I'm not asking for forgiveness. Not yet. I haven't earned it." She took a breath. "But I am asking for a chance to do better. Starting with this, I looked at your file last night. Your real file, not just the HR summary. Noah Cole, Army Rangers, 2 tours, honorable discharge with commendations for valor. Expert marksman, hand-to-hand combat instructor, fluent in Arabic. You weren't just military, you were elite." Noah's jaw tightened. That was a long time ago. 6 years. You came home and took a job in IT because it was quiet and stable and let you be there for your daughter. You never mentioned your background. You just disappeared into normal life. That was the point. And then I demoted you, made you work nights, cut your salary. Vivian's voice was thick with regret. "You could have told me who you were. Could have used your credentials to demand respect, but you didn't. Because that person doesn't exist anymore. I'm just a dad trying to raise his daughter right." "No." Vivian shook her head. "You're a dad who raised his daughter right while also being extraordinary. You taught her to help people who need help even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You taught her that by example." The elevator doors started to close. Noah put his hand out, stopping them. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the board is meeting this afternoon. They're going to want answers about what happened about corporate security, about why their CEO was almost kidnapped in a supermarket. And when they ask me who should be in charge of security going forward, I'm going to tell them it should be you." Noah stepped out of the elevator. "No." "Noah." "I said no. I work nights because it lets me take Lily to school and pick her up. I work security because it's simple and doesn't trigger my PTSD. I've built a life that works for us, and I'm not changing it because you feel guilty." "It's not about guilt." Vivian followed him into the hallway. "It's about putting the right person in the right position. You have skills this company desperately needs. Skills that could what? Turn me back into the person I was. The person who cleared buildings and called in airstrikes and watched his friends die in the desert." Noah's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "I can't be that person anymore, Vivian. I have a daughter who makes me purple crayon shopping lists and believes her daddy is safe and normal and home every night. I won't trade that for anything, not even for your approval." Vivian stood in the fluorescent-lit hallway, and for a moment she looked lost. "I'm trying to make this right." "I know. But some things can't be fixed with promotions and titles." Noah's voice softened slightly. "You want to make it right. Start by treating the people who work for you like human beings. Learn their names. Say thank you. Don't humiliate them in meetings. That's how you make it right." He started walking toward the security office. Behind him, Vivian called out, "The media is going to find you. They're probably already at your apartment. Your life is about to change whether you want it to or not." "Then I'll deal with it." Noah stopped, looked back over his shoulder. "But I'll deal with it my way, as a father first. Everything else is secondary." He left her standing there and headed to the security office to start his shift. The day unfolded exactly as Vivian had predicted. By noon, the video had gone properly viral, not just local news viral, but national news viral. CNN ran a segment titled, "Everyday Hero's Single Dad Stops Kidnapping with Groceries." Fox News countered with, "Should civilians intervene? Experts weigh in." Even international outlets picked it up, because apparently the whole world loved a good David versus Goliath story. Noah's phone became unusable. He turned it off around 1 p.m. after the 100th call from someone claiming to be a producer who wanted to tell his story. He focused on work instead, checking security logs, reviewing camera footage, doing the boring methodical tasks that kept a building safe, and his mind occupied. Marcus appeared in the security office around 3 p.m. with a sandwich and a conspiratorial grin. "Dude, you know the entire executive floor is in chaos, right? Vivian apparently told the board that she wants to restructure security and put you in charge, and half of them are like, 'Brilliant idea,' and the other half are like, 'Who the hell is Noah Cole?' I already told her no. You told the CEO no to a promotion. I told a person no to a change I don't want." Noah accepted the sandwich gratefully. He'd forgotten to pack lunch. "Thanks for this." "No problem. Listen, I know you want everything to go back to normal, but that's not happening. People are talking. Good things mostly. About how you've been here for 3 years and nobody really knew you. About how you're always early, always helpful, never complain. Sandra from accounting said you stayed late once to help her fix her computer before a big presentation, and you didn't even charge it to your timesheet. It took 10 minutes. Exactly. You're just decent. And people are realizing they took that for granted." Marcus leaned against the desk. "For what it's worth, I think you'd be great at whatever you wanted to do here. But I also get wanting to keep things simple. I've got a kid too. Well, not yet, but my wife's pregnant, and I'm already terrified of screwing him up." Noah smiled despite himself. "Congratulations. When's she due?" "January. It's a boy. We're naming him Felix." Marcus's face softened the way new fathers' faces always did when they talked about their kids. "Any advice?" "Yeah. Love them more than you're afraid. And when the world gets scary, be there calm. Kids don't need perfect. They need present." "That's actually really good advice." "It's written on a red string bracelet my daughter made me." Marcus laughed. "The one you were wearing in all the videos, Twitter's already calling it your power bracelet. Someone made fan art." Of course they did. At 3:30, Noah left to pick up Lily from school. He took side streets to avoid the news vans that were probably still camped outside his apartment building. Mrs. Chen had texted that Lily was at her place safe and happy, and apparently teaching her how to make friendship bracelets. He found them sitting at Mrs. Chen's kitchen table, surrounded by embroidery floss in every color imaginable. Lily's tongue was poking out in concentration as she wove pink and purple threads together. "Daddy!" She launched herself at him, and he caught her in a hug that lifted her off the ground. "Hey, sweetheart. Did you have a good day?" "It was weird. Everyone wanted to talk to me about you. My teacher said you're famous now. Is that true?" Noah set her down and crouched to her level. "I'm the same person I was yesterday, Lily. Some people saw a video of me helping someone and they're talking about it. But it doesn't change who I am." "That's what I told everyone." Lily beamed. "I said my daddy is brave all the time, not just on Tuesdays." Mrs. Chen chuckled from the stove where she was making tea. "The children, they ask if you have superpowers. Lily says yes, your superpower is making her feel safe." Noah felt his throat tighten. He touched the red string bracelet. "That's the best superpower I could have." They stayed for tea, Jasmine served in delicate cups that Lily held with both hands like precious treasure. Mrs. Chen told them about her grandson's new job, about her garden that was finally producing tomatoes, about the mundane, beautiful normalness of life. When they finally headed back to their apartment, Noah took Lily's hand and prepared her. There might be people with cameras outside our building. They're going to want to ask questions, but we're just going to walk past them and go home. Okay, don't stop, don't talk to them, just stay with me. Are they bad people? No, honey, they're just doing their jobs. But their job is being nosy, and we don't have to help them be nosy. There were 5 news vans this time. But there was also building security. The manager had apparently decided that letting reporters harass tenants was bad for business, so they made it inside with only a few shouted questions trailing behind them. Upstairs, their apartment felt like a sanctuary. Noah locked the door, closed the blinds, and put on Lily's favorite movie while he made dinner. Spaghetti tonight, because they still had the sauce from yesterday's shopping trip. While the water boiled, his phone turned back on, reluctantly buzzed with a single text from an unknown number. Mr. Cole, this is FBI Special Agent Sarah Chen. We'd like to speak with you tomorrow about the incident. The men you stopped are connected to a larger corporate espionage ring. Your testimony will be crucial. Please call this number to schedule. Thank you for your service both yesterday and in uniform. Noah stared at the message. Of course it was bigger. Of course there were complications. Nothing was ever simple. He replied, I'll call tomorrow, after I drop my daughter at school. The response came immediately. Understood. Family first. At least the FBI got it. They ate dinner together. Lily chattering about the friendship bracelet she was making for him, red and blue and purple, because those were brave colors. Noah listened and responded and tried to be present even as his mind spun through scenarios and contingencies and all the ways this could go wrong. After dinner, after bath time, after the bedtime story about a brave little mouse who saved the kingdom with nothing but cleverness and courage, Noah tucked Lily into bed. Daddy. Her voice was small in the dark room. Are you scared? Of what, honey? Of all the people watching? Of everyone knowing about you now? Noah thought about lying, about saying no, everything's fine, don't worry. But he'd promised himself when she was born that he would always be honest with her, even when honesty was hard. Yeah, he admitted. I am a little scared. I liked being invisible. I liked our quiet life. But you helped that lady anyway, even though it made you not invisible anymore. Yeah. That's really brave, Daddy. Braver than the Sprite thing. Noah smiled in the darkness. The Sprite thing was pretty brave too. But this is different brave. This is doing the right thing even when it's scary and you don't want to. Out of the mouths of babes. You're pretty smart, you know that. I know, I get it from you. She yawned, already halfway to sleep. Daddy, will you still pick me up from school tomorrow, even with all the camera people? Every single day, sweetheart. That's a promise. Okay, love you. Love you too, Lily. More than all the stars. More than all the stars times infinity. Times infinity plus 1. She giggled, and then her breathing evened out into sleep. Noah sat in the chair beside her bed for a long time, watching her sleep, thinking about promises and choices, and the fact that privacy once lost could never be fully reclaimed. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from Vivian Cross. I'm sorry for pushing earlier. You were right. I just wanted you to know the board approved a company-wide security review. We're implementing new protocols, better protection for everyone, and I'm starting leadership training for all executives, including me. You taught me something important yesterday. Thank you. Noah typed back. Good. That's a start. And Vivian. The people who work for you aren't obstacles to overcome. They're human beings trying to do their best. Remember that, and you'll be fine. I will. Good night, Noah. Good night. He set the phone aside and looked at his daughter peaceful and safe and completely confident that her daddy would protect her from whatever came next. Tomorrow, he'd talk to the FBI. Tomorrow, he'd face the cameras and the questions and the uncomfortable reality of being visible. Tomorrow, the world would keep spinning, and his 15 minutes of fame would eventually fade, and life would find a new normal. But tonight, in this quiet apartment, with lavender-scented happiness and glow-in-the-dark stars, Noah Cole was exactly what he needed to be: a father, watching his daughter sleep, wearing a red string bracelet that reminded him why any of it mattered. The rest could wait until morning. Morning came too early, announced by Lily's alarm clock playing some pop song about friendship and dreams. Noah was already awake, had been since 5 a.m. sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and his laptop, reviewing something he'd hoped he'd never have to explain to anyone: the security footage he'd downloaded 3 days before the supermarket incident. He'd noticed them on Tuesday morning, 2 men who didn't belong in the parking garage at Crosstech. Their body language was wrong, their positioning deliberate. They'd been watching the executive entrance timing arrivals, taking notes. Noah's instincts, those persistent ghosts from his military days, had screamed warnings he couldn't ignore. So he'd done what any former ranger would do: he'd documented everything. Photos time-stamped and geotagged, license plate numbers, facial recognition searches using software he probably shouldn't have had access to, but did because old friends owed old favors. By Tuesday afternoon, he'd known these men were professionals. By Tuesday evening, when he saw them walk into Campbell's supermarket with that particular purpose in their stride, he'd already decided what he would do if they made a move. The FBI would want all of it. Every photo, every timestamp, every piece of evidence that proved this wasn't just Noah Cole getting lucky with a bottle of Sprite. "Daddy, you're doing your thinking face." Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her pajamas, clutching Mr. Buttons. "The one you get when you're worried but trying not to show it." Noah closed the laptop. "Just work stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about. Want pancakes?" "Yes. Can we make them look like bears?" "We can absolutely make them look like bears." They fell into their morning routine: pancakes with chocolate chip eyes and whipped cream smiles. Lily's backpack checked twice for homework and lunch teeth brushed, while singing the alphabet song. Normal. Precious. The kind of ordinary morning that Noah had fought wars to protect, even if he'd never fully understood that until Lily was born. Mrs. Chen met them in the hallway at 7:45, her eyes sharp with concern. "The news people, they are still outside. I saw from my window. More than yesterday." "I'll handle it." Noah crouched down to Lily. "Remember what we talked about? We walk straight to Mrs. Chen's car. We don't stop. We don't talk to anyone with cameras." "I know, Daddy. Like we're invisible." "Exactly, like we're invisible." They made it to the parking garage through the service entrance, avoiding the reporters entirely. Noah helped Lily into Mrs. Chen's ancient Toyota, buckled her in, kissed her forehead. "I'll pick you up at 3 o'clock, just like always." "Even if the FBI people want to talk longer?" Noah blinked. "How did you know about the FBI?" "I heard you on the phone last night. I wasn't trying to listen, but you weren't being very quiet." Lily looked at him with those impossibly wise 8-year-old eyes. "Are you in trouble?" "No, honey. They just want to ask me questions about what happened. I'm going to tell them the truth, and then I'm going to come get you from school. That's a promise." "Okay." She seemed satisfied with that. "Can we have tacos for dinner?" "Absolutely." He watched them drive away, Mrs. Chen navigating the morning traffic with the confidence of someone who'd been driving these streets for 40 years. Then Noah turned and headed to his own car, mentally preparing for what came next. The FBI field office was downtown, a glass and steel building that looked like every other glass and steel building until you noticed the security cameras and the agents in the lobby wearing suits that didn't quite hide their sidearms. Noah checked in at reception, showed his ID, and was escorted to a conference room on the 4th floor. Special Agent Sarah Chen was younger than he'd expected, mid-30s, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, handshake firm and professional. Her partner, Special Agent Marcus Webb, was older, graying at the temples, with the kind of weathered face that came from years of seeing humanity at its worst. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming in." Chen gestured to a chair. "Can we get you coffee, water?" "Coffee would be great, thanks." While Webb poured from a pot that looked like it had been sitting there since the previous administration, Chen opened a file folder thick with documents. "I'll cut straight to it. The two men you subdued, Marcus Reeves and Daniel Chang, are professional operatives. Former military themselves, dishonorably discharged, now working as corporate mercenaries. They've been linked to at least 6 other incidents of industrial espionage across 3 states. Noah accepted the coffee from Webb. "You said they were connected to a larger ring. We've been tracking them for 18 months. They're hired guns, essentially. Companies with questionable ethics pay them to acquire information, intimidate competitors, occasionally kidnap key personnel for leverage." Chen pulled out a photo, slid it across the table. "Recognize him." Noah studied the image. A man in his 50s, expensive suit, the kind of artificial smile that came from too many boardroom negotiations. "No, should I?" Richard Harmon, CEO of TechFront Industries, Crosstech's biggest competitor. We have evidence suggesting he orchestrated the attempted kidnapping of Vivian Cross. He wanted her company's patents, specifically the AI algorithm Crosstech developed last year, worth approximately $3 billion. Webb leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Here's where it gets interesting." Reeves and Chang, both lawyered up, immediately refused to say a word. "We had circumstantial evidence, but nothing concrete enough for prosecution. Then we checked their phones." "And found my photos," Noah said quietly. Both agents looked at him sharply. Chen recovered first. "You knew we'd find them." "I knew you'd find something. I took photos of Reeves and Chang 3 days before the supermarket incident. Saw them surveilling Crosstech's executive entrance. Their behavior set off alarms, so I documented everything." Noah pulled out his own phone, opened a folder, and placed it on the table. "Timestamps, locations, facial recognition results, vehicle information. Everything you'll need to establish premeditation and conspiracy." Webb whistled low. "You did a full surveillance workup in 3 days while working 2 jobs and raising a kid." "Old habits. I saw a threat, I tracked it. When they showed up at the supermarket, I already knew who they were and what they were probably planning." Chen was scrolling through the photos, her expression shifting from surprise to something like awe. This is better documentation than some of our field agents produce. The timestamps alone establish a pattern of stalking. Combined with the text messages we pulled from their phones, this builds a case for conspiracy to kidnap, attempted kidnapping, corporate espionage." She looked up. "Mr. Cole, this evidence might take down an entire network. Not just Reeves and Chang, but their employer, their handler, possibly a dozen other operatives." "Good." Noah's voice was flat. "They threatened my daughter. Indirectly, but they did. When that man kicked her teddy bear, he stopped being just a threat to Vivian Cross. He became a threat to Lily. And I don't tolerate threats to my daughter." The room went quiet. Webb spoke first, his voice gentler than before. "You have a daughter in the 2nd grade who makes you friendship bracelets and believes her daddy can fix anything. I read the background brief. I also read your military file. You were decorated for valor twice. Silver Star for pulling 3 wounded soldiers out of a firefight in Fallujah. Bronze Star for an operation in Kandahar that's still classified. You came home and became an IT technician. I came home and became a father. Everything else is just details. Most guys with your skill set end up as contractors making 6 figures, or private security, or law enforcement. Why IT?" Noah took a sip of coffee, buying time to find the right words. "Because I needed quiet. I needed normal. I needed a job where the worst thing that happened was someone forgetting their password, not someone dying because I made the wrong call. I needed to be the kind of person my daughter could grow up admiring, not fearing." Chen's expression softened. And then you stopped a kidnapping with grocery store items and became exactly the kind of person she can admire. She admired me before, because I showed up, because I made her pancakes and helped with homework, and taught her that helping people matters. The supermarket thing was just one moment. Parenting is thousands of moments. That's a good answer. Chen closed the file. Here's what happens next. We're going to use your evidence to build a case against Richard Harmon and Techfront Industries. You'll need to testify, probably in front of a grand jury. Your identity will be protected as much as possible, but given the media attention, that ship has partially sailed. I know. We're also going to recommend witness protection protocols for you and your daughter. Not full relocation, but enhanced security. Regular check-ins. Panic buttons. The works. Noah felt his chest tighten. Is that necessary? Harmon has resources. If he realizes you're the linchpin witness who can send him to federal prison for 20 years, he might decide you're a problem that needs solving. Webb's voice was matter-of-fact. We take threats seriously, especially when kids are involved. Lily can't know. She can't grow up scared. She won't. We're good at this. Subtle security measures. She'll never notice. They spent the next 2 hours going through Noah's evidence in detail, each photo and timestamp and observation. Chen asked sharp questions. Webb took notes. Occasionally, they'd exchange glances that told Noah his information was even more valuable than they'd initially thought. Finally, Chen pushed back from the table. Mr. Cole, I have to ask, why didn't you call the police when you first identified these men as threats? Why track them yourself? Noah had known this question was coming. Because I wasn't sure. I had instincts and observations, but no proof of intent. I didn't want to be the paranoid veteran who saw threats everywhere and wasted police resources on false alarms. So I gathered information. If I was wrong, no harm done. If I was right, he shrugged, I'd have what I needed to protect people. And when you saw them in the supermarket, you knew. I knew. And I had about 3 seconds to decide run with Lily and hope they didn't hurt anyone else or neutralize the threat. I chose to neutralize. Webb grinned. With a bottle of Sprite and a shopping cart. That's going to be in the Academy training videos someday. Improvised Weapons 101, the Noah Cole method. Despite everything, Noah smiled. Please don't. I'm already internet famous. I don't need to be FBI training material too. They wrapped up around 1 p.m. Chen walked him to the elevator, handed him a card with multiple phone numbers. Anytime, day or night, you see something that concerns you, you call. Any threats, any suspicious activity, anything. We've got your back now, Mr. Cole. Thank you. I appreciate that. One more thing. She hesitated, then spoke anyway. My daughter is 7. She wants to be an astronaut. Last night she watched the video of you in the supermarket and asked if regular dads could be heroes. I told her yes. I told her that real heroes are the people who show up when it's hard and do what's right even when they're scared. Thank you for being that example. Noah felt his throat tighten. Tell her to keep dreaming about the stars. The world needs astronauts. I will. The elevator doors closed. Noah rode down alone, thinking about daughters and dreams and the weight of being someone's example. Outside, the afternoon sun was bright and cold. Noah had 3 hours before school pickup. He could go home, face the reporters, hide in his apartment. Or he could do something else. He drove to Crosstech. The security guard at the gate, Jerome, who worked days while Noah worked nights, did a double take. Man, you're all over the news. They're saying you're some kind of superhero. Just a guy who had groceries to buy, Jerome. Is Vivian Cross in today? Top floor. But you'll need executive clearance to get up there, and no offense, but night security doesn't usually... Noah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Jerome is calling upstairs to verify. I'm sending executive clearance to your badge now. Come up. Vivian. 30 seconds later, Jerome's computer beeped. He stared at the screen, then at Noah. Well, looks like you've got clearance. 10th floor corner office. The elevator ride up felt longer than it should have. Noah had been in this building hundreds of times, but never above the third floor. The executive level was different. Plush carpet, original artwork on the walls, the kind of quiet that came from soundproofing, and money. Vivian's assistant, a young man in a tailored suit who looked like he'd been hired from a GQ photo shoot, gestured toward the corner office. "She's expecting you." Vivian stood at the window overlooking the city, her back to the door. She didn't turn when Noah entered, but her reflection in the glass showed someone who looked tired and thoughtful and changed. "The FBI called me this morning," she said without preamble. "Told me about the evidence you'd been gathering, about how you'd been tracking those men for days before they made their move." Noah closed the door behind him. "I did what I thought was necessary. You saved my life twice, once by stopping them, and once by building the case that's going to put their employer away." She finally turned to face him. "The board met this morning. Emergency session. They voted unanimously to fire me." Noah blinked. "What? Failure to maintain adequate security protocols. Failure to identify corporate espionage threats. Failure to protect company assets, myself included." Her smile was bitter. "Turns out, being almost kidnapped is bad for shareholder confidence. Who knew? That's not fair. You were the victim. I was the CEO who created a culture where someone like you, someone with your skills and instincts, was relegated to night security because I was too arrogant to see value in anyone who didn't fit my narrow definition of success." Vivian moved to her desk, picked up a box already half-packed with personal items. "They're right to fire me. I failed. Not at security protocols, but at basic human decency." Noah sat down in one of the leather chairs facing her desk. "What will you do? I have offers. Other companies who think my failure was circumstantial, but I'm not taking them." She pulled something from her desk drawer, a friendship bracelet clumsily made red and blue threads woven together. "Your daughter came to see me this morning. With Mrs. Chen. She said she made this for me because everyone deserves a second chance bracelet. Even people who were mean." Noah's heart clenched. "She did what?" She showed up at reception with that wonderful old lady and asked very politely if she could see Ms. Cross for just a minute. Security called me because they didn't know what to do with an 8-year-old bearing friendship bracelets. I came down and she handed me this and said..." Vivian's voice cracked slightly. "She said that her daddy taught her that being brave means helping people who need help, and that I looked like I needed help being a better person. I'm going to have a talk with her about boundaries and not showing up at people's offices uninvited." "Please don't. It was the most honest feedback I've received in 10 years. Vivian tied the bracelet around her wrist. "She also said that if I wanted to learn how to be nice, I should start by saying thank you and meaning it. So Noah Cole, thank you. For saving my life, for teaching your daughter to be kind even to people who don't deserve it, and for showing me what real strength looks like." "You're welcome." They sat in silence for a moment, two people whose lives had intersected in the most unlikely way, both trying to figure out what came next. Finally, Vivian spoke. "The board hired someone else to handle security. Former Secret Service, very impressive credentials. But they also created a new position. Director of Corporate Ethics and Human Resources Development. Someone to rebuild the culture here, to teach executives how to lead with integrity instead of fear. They want someone who understands both strength and compassion, someone who leads by example." Noah saw where this was going. "No. They're offering $200,000 a year, full benefits, flexible hours, so you can still do school pickup. You'd work from home 3 days a week, in office 2 days. You'd be teaching leadership seminars to executives, developing ethics protocols, basically doing what you already do naturally, showing people how to be better humans." "Vivian, before you say no again, just listen. You told me yesterday that real change takes time, that I need to learn to treat people with decency. This position exists because you were right. The board realizes that a company culture that values profits over people is a company culture that creates security risks, legal risks, ethical risks. They want to change that, and they want you to help." Noah thought about Lily's purple crayon list. About the new addition she'd made, help people who need help. I can't be the person I was in the army. I can't go back to that. This isn't asking you to. This is asking you to be exactly who you are. A father who taught his daughter that kindness and courage go together. A man who sees threats and addresses them thoughtfully. A human being who believes people can change and gives them the tools to do it. Vivian leaned forward. You said I should learn people's names, say thank you, treat employees like human beings. Imagine if you could teach that to every executive in this company. Imagine the ripple effect. Noah touched his red string bracelet, feeling the lumpy knots Lily's small fingers had tied. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. The position is yours if you want it. If you don't, I'll understand. But Noah. She smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it looked genuine. Your daughter was right. Everyone deserves a second chance, including me, including you. Maybe it's time to stop hiding from who you are and start embracing all of it, the father, the veteran, the hero, the teacher. You don't have to choose. You can be everything. Noah left her office with a business card containing an offer he'd never expected and a head full of thoughts he'd need time to sort through. He made it to Lily's school at 2:55 p.m., 5 minutes early, parking in his usual spot. The other parents gave him looks, some curious, some admiring, some wary. News traveled fast in elementary school parking lots. Lily burst out of the building at 3:02 backpack, bouncing Mr. Buttons tucked under her arm. She ran to him the way she always did, like she hadn't seen him in years instead of hours. Daddy, I had the best day. We learned about butterflies, and I got a gold star on my math quiz. And oh, I went to see that lady this morning to give her a bracelet because she looked sad on TV and misses. Chen said sometimes the right thing to do is the brave thing, even if grown-ups might say it's not allowed. Noah buckled her into her booster seat, trying to keep his voice calm. Sweetheart, we need to talk about checking with Daddy before you go visit people at their offices. But she needed help, and you always say we help people who need help. I do say that, and I'm proud of you for being kind. But next time we make a plan together, first okay. Okay. Lily was quiet for a moment as they pulled into traffic. Then, Daddy, is that lady going to be okay? She seemed really sad. I think she will be. Thanks to you and your bracelet. Good, because everyone deserves second chances. You taught me that. Noah glanced at her in the rearview mirror. This impossibly wise, impossibly kind small human he was somehow responsible for raising. I'm learning a lot from you too, you know. I know. That's how families work. We teach each other. They stopped for tacos on the way home, a little place Lily loved because they put the cheese on top where you could see it. They ate in a corner booth, and Noah listened to her talk about butterflies and metamorphosis, and how caterpillars had to completely dissolve inside the chrysalis before they could become something new. It's like they die, but they don't really die, they just change into something better, Lily explained through a mouthful of cheese. Do you think people can do that? Change into something better? Yeah. Like can mean people become nice people. Noah thought about Vivian in her office wearing a child's friendship bracelet, offering him a job that could change everything. Yeah, sweetheart. I think people can absolutely do that. It's hard work and it takes time, but people can change. Good. Lily took another bite of taco. Because I think that lady wants to change. And I think you should help her. That's what heroes do. Is that right? Yep. Heroes don't just save people from bad guys. They help people save themselves from being bad. That's even more important. Noah stared at his daughter, wondering not for the first time if she was actually 8 years old, or secretly a 1,000-year-old philosopher in a small body. When did you get so smart? I told you. I get it from you. That night after dinner, and homework, and bath time after the bedtime story about a caterpillar who was scared to change but did it anyway, and discovered wings, Noah sat on the couch with his laptop and looked at the job offer Vivian had emailed him. Director of Corporate Ethics and Human Resources Development. $200,000 a year. Flexible schedule. The chance to actually change a company culture from the inside. The chance to stop hiding. His phone buzzed. A text from Agent Chen. Grand jury date set for next month. You'll need to testify. We'll arrange security. Also thought you should know, Harmon's lawyers are already trying to cut deals. Your evidence is airtight. You did good work. Another text, this one from Marcus at IT. Dude, the whole department is talking about the job offer. Please say yes. We need someone to teach the executives how to be actual human beings. Another from Mrs. Chen. That child of yours has a good heart. You raised her well. Whatever you decide, you are already successful, where it matters most. Noah looked at the red string bracelet on his wrist, at the words Lily had written on her new shopping list, still stuck to the refrigerator. Help people who need help. He thought about caterpillars and chrysalises, and the courage it took to dissolve everything you thought you were so you could become something new. Then he opened his email and started typing. Vivian, I'd like to discuss the position, not because I want to change who I am, but because I think I finally understand that helping people is who I am. Whether that's stopping kidnappings or teaching executives empathy, it's the same mission. Let's talk about how to do this right. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Somewhere in the city, in an office being packed into boxes, a CEO wearing a friendship bracelet would read that email and smile. Somewhere else, two corporate mercenaries sat in federal holding cells, realizing too late that they'd picked the wrong father to threaten. And in a small apartment that smelled like lavender and taco night, a single dad tucked his daughter into bed and promised her that tomorrow and every day after he would keep showing up. Keep being brave. Keep helping people who needed help. Because that's what heroes did. Not with capes or powers or fame, but with presence and kindness, and the courage to be exactly who they were meant to be, even when it was scary, especially then. Vivian's response came at 11:47 p.m. long after Noah had assumed she'd gone to sleep. 3 words. Tomorrow. My place. Noon. Followed by an address in the kind of neighborhood where houses had names instead of numbers, and the trees were older than most countries. Noah stared at his phone in the darkness of his bedroom, listening to the soft hum of Lily's sound machine through the wall. Meeting at her house felt personal in a way that made him uncomfortable. But then again, she didn't have an office anymore. And if they were going to have a real conversation about what this job meant, maybe personal was exactly what they needed. He texted back, I'll need to bring Lily. Can't get childcare on short notice. The reply was immediate. Perfect. I'd like to meet her properly. Does she like gardens? I have one she might enjoy. Noah smiled despite himself. Vivian Cross was trying. Actually trying. She loves gardens. See you at noon. Morning came with its usual chaos of cereal and cartoons and the eternal struggle to find Lily's other shoe, which turned out to be under the couch next to 3 hair ties and Mr. Buttons' spare outfit. Noah got her to school on time barely and spent the morning doing something he hadn't done in years, shopping for clothes that weren't cargo pants or security uniforms. If he was going to have a serious conversation about becoming a corporate director, he probably shouldn't look like he was about to clear a building or patrol a parking lot. The saleswoman at the department store took one look at him and seemed to understand immediately. Job interview. Something like that. And you have no idea what you're doing in terms of business casual. That obvious. She smiled. Honey, you walked straight to the camping section before realizing your mistake. Let me help. 40 minutes later, Noah owned 2 button-down shirts that actually fit a pair of dark jeans the saleswoman insisted were professional but approachable, and shoes that weren't combat boots. He felt like he was wearing a costume. You look like someone who means business but also has a soul, the saleswoman said approvingly. That's harder to pull off than you'd think. Good luck with the interview. Thanks, I think I'll need it. He picked up Lily at noon, explaining during the drive that they were going to visit Ms. Cross at her house to talk about grown-up work things, but that there would be a garden for her to explore. The lady with the sad eyes, from the store. She's not as sad now, thanks partly to you and your bracelet. Lily nodded seriously, as if this made perfect sense. Are you going to work for her again? Maybe. We're going to talk about it. Will you still pick me up from school every day? Every single day. That's not negotiable. Okay then. You should say yes. She needs help being a better person, and you're good at helping people. The address led them to a house that was somehow both grand and understated modern architecture, nestled into old-growth trees' walls of glass, looking out onto landscaped grounds that probably required a full-time staff. Noah parked his beat-up Honda Civic next to a Tesla and felt the absurdity of the situation wash over him. 6 days ago, he'd been a night security guard who fixed printers. Now he was at his former CEO's mansion discussing a 6-figure job while his daughter picked wildflowers from a garden that probably cost more than his annual salary. Vivian met them at the door, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair down, the friendship bracelet still on her wrist. She looked younger without the corporate armor, more uncertain, more human. Noah, and you must be Lily. She crouched down to the girl's level, and Noah noticed she was careful to make herself smaller, less intimidating. Thank you for the bracelet. It's the nicest gift anyone's given me in a very long time. Lily studied her with those discerning 8-year-old eyes. You're wearing it. That means you want to remember. Remember what? That second chances are important. That's what the bracelet means. Vivian's eyes went bright for a moment. You're right. That's exactly what it means. Would you like to see the garden? There's a koi pond with fish that are probably older than your dad. Really? Can I feed them? Absolutely. Let me show you. Noah watched them walk toward the back of the house. This powerful woman who'd terrorized boardrooms, and this small girl who'd somehow managed to reach her with nothing but colored thread and kindness. The world was strange and beautiful sometimes. Vivian got Lily settled by the pond with fish food and strict instructions about how much was too much, then led Noah to a covered patio overlooking the garden. A pitcher of iced tea sat on the table, condensation beating in the midday heat. She's remarkable, Vivian said, pouring 2 glasses. You can see it in how she moves through the world, confident but not arrogant, curious but not reckless. That doesn't happen by accident. She's the best thing I've ever done. Everything else is just noise. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. The everything else. Vivian sat down, and Noah noticed she seemed nervous. This woman who'd faced down investors and hostile takeovers was nervous about talking to him. I've been fired from exactly one job in my life, and it was the wake-up call I needed. I've spent the last 3 days thinking about what I want to do next, and I realized I don't want to run another company. I want to fix the one I broke. You can't. You were fired. But you weren't. And if you take this position, you'll have authority to implement real change. I want to help. Not as CEO, not as your boss, but as, I don't know, a partner in making things better. Noah took a sip of tea, buying time. Through the window, he could see Lily kneeling by the pond, talking to the fish like they were old friends. What does that actually look like? You teach the leadership seminars. You develop the ethics protocols. You have the title and the authority. I'll work behind the scenes funding initiatives, connecting you with resources, using my network to amplify what you're building. Think of me as your very well-connected assistant who happens to own significant stock in the company and wants to see it actually live up to its values. That's a pretty significant role for someone who was just fired. I'm a major shareholder. They can fire me from operations, but they can't remove my investment. And I plan to use that leverage to support you, not undermine you. Vivian leaned forward. Noah, I built Crosstech from nothing. I know every system, every weak point, every place where the culture is toxic because I made it that way. You know how to build healthy cultures and lead with integrity. Together we could actually transform this place. Why do you care? You have enough money to retire and never think about Crosstech again. Because your daughter looked at me with those honest eyes and said everyone deserves second chances, and I realized she was right. I don't want my legacy to be the CEO who was so cruel her own IT guy had to save her life. I want to be the person who learned to do better. But I can't do it alone. Noah watched Lily toss fish food into the pond, her laughter carrying across the garden. I need guarantees. In writing. I work from home 3 days a week minimum. I'm at school pickup every day by 3. If Lily is sick, work comes second. No exceptions. No guilt trips. No passive-aggressive comments about commitment. Done. What else? I report to the board, not to you. If we're going to work together, we can't have the same power dynamic we had before. I need to be able to tell you when you're wrong without worrying about my job. Agreed. In fact, I'd prefer it. I've had enough yes men to last a lifetime. And if this doesn't work, if the culture is too broken, or the board won't support real change, I walk away. No questions, no hard feelings, and you don't try to keep me for appearances. Vivian extended her hand. You have my word. All of it. Noah shook her hand, feeling the weight of the decision settle into his bones. Okay, let's try to fix things. Thank you. I know this isn't easy for you. Stepping back into visibility, taking on corporate responsibility, when you've worked so hard to build a simple life. But I think you're exactly what Crosstech needs. What a lot of companies need, honestly. I'm just one person. I can't fix everything. No, but you can start the ripple. Teach one executive to lead with empathy, and they influence their whole department. Teach 10 executives, and you change the company culture. Teach 100, and maybe you change the industry. Vivian smiled. Plus, you have secret weapons. Which are, you're a father who shows up every day. You're a veteran who knows real courage. You're a man who stopped a kidnapping with grocery store items because someone kicked your daughter's teddy bear and you decided that wasn't acceptable. People will listen to you, Noah. Not because of your title, but because you're genuine in a world that desperately needs authenticity. Lily's voice called across the garden. Daddy, this fish is huge. Can we get fish? Noah stood up, calling back. We'll talk about it, sweetheart. That means no. Lily informed the fish sadly. Vivian laughed, and it sounded real. Not the polished corporate laugh Noah had heard in meetings, but something genuine. She's got you figured out. Completely. It's terrifying. They walked down to the pond together. Vivian showed Lily how to identify different koi by their patterns, and Noah found himself relaxing into the moment. This wasn't a business negotiation. This was 3 people in a garden talking about fish, letting the heavy things wait for later. His phone buzzed. Agent Chen. Heads up. Grand jury testimony moved to next week. Tuesday at 9 a.m. Federal Courthouse downtown. I'll meet you there. Bring your evidence files. Noah texted back. Will do. Any concerns I should know about? Harmon's lawyers are fighting hard. They know your testimony is damaging. Expect them to try to discredit you. Stay calm, stick to facts, you'll be fine. He pocketed the phone and found Vivian watching him. Everything okay? Grand jury testimony next week. For the case against the guys who tried to kidnap you. Her expression sobered. Is it dangerous testifying? Potentially. The FBI is taking precautions. Noah, if there's any risk to you or Lily, because you saved my life. There's always risk. I knew that when I made the choice. But some things are worth the risk. He looked at his daughter, now trying to get the fish to eat from her hand. Most things aren't. But protecting people who need help, that's worth it. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she said, I'll hire personal security for you. The best available. And for Lily, non-negotiable. I don't need... Please. Let me do this. I have the resources, and you have a child to protect. You can argue with me about corporate policy all you want, but on this, I'm asking you to let me help. Noah thought about what it would mean to say yes. To accept help instead of trying to handle everything alone. To admit that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to be a one-man army anymore. Okay, but nothing obvious. Lily can't know she's being protected. Subtle security. Got it. I'll make some calls. They stayed for another hour. Lily explored the garden, finding a butterfly chrysalis on a branch and insisting they all come see this miracle of nature. Vivian listened with genuine interest as the 8-year-old explained metamorphosis in terms she'd learned from school about how caterpillars dissolved and became something new. "Do you think it hurts?" Lily asked. "The changing part." Vivian met Noah's eyes over his daughter's head. "Probably. Real change usually does. But the alternative is never becoming who you're meant to be. So maybe the hurt is worth it." "Yeah," Lily said thoughtfully. "Like how Daddy says brave doesn't mean not scared. It means doing the thing even when you're scared." "Your daughter is very wise." "I know. She gets it from her mom." Noah's voice went quiet. "She died when Lily was 6. Cancer. But before that, she taught Lily that being kind was more important than being perfect. I'm just trying to reinforce the lesson." "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." On the drive home, Lily chattered about the fish and the garden, and how Ms. Cross seemed much nicer than she looked on TV. Noah listened and responded, and tried to process the fact that his life was changing whether he was ready or not. The next week moved with the strange momentum of a boulder rolling downhill. Noah met with Crosstech's board on Wednesday, signed contracts on Thursday, and by Friday he was officially the Director of Corporate Ethics and Human Resources Development, with an office he'd never use and a salary that made his hands shake when he saw the first deposit. The money meant security. It meant Lily's college fund could actually be substantial. It meant he could stop working 2 jobs and maybe possibly occasionally sleep more than 5 hours a night. It also meant visibility, responsibility, the weight of people's expectations. On Monday, he attended his first executive meeting as a director rather than the IT guy hiding in the corner. The other executives stared at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism to barely concealed hostility. He was an outsider. A night guard who'd gotten lucky. A diversity hire to make the company look good after a scandal. The new CEO, Gerald Morrison, former COO career corporate climber, called the meeting to order with a brisk efficiency that suggested he ran on espresso and spreadsheets. "Let's address the elephant in the room. Noah Cole is now our Director of Ethics. I know some of you have questions about this appointment. I'll be direct. The board wants culture change, and Cole has been tasked with delivering it. You will cooperate fully with his initiatives. Clear?" The room murmured reluctant agreement. Morrison turned to Noah. "You have the floor. Tell us what you need." Noah stood up, feeling every eye on him. His hands wanted to shake, but he touched his red string bracelet and felt Lily's presence, even though she was 3 miles away at school. "I don't need much," he said quietly. "Just honesty. I'm not here to punish anyone or make your lives harder. I'm here because this company almost lost its CEO to kidnappers, and that doesn't happen in organizations with healthy cultures. It happens when people are so afraid or so disconnected that they don't notice threats. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn to see each other as human beings first. Everything else comes after that." A woman in her 50s, Sandra Chen, VP of Finance, spoke up. "That sounds lovely in theory, but we have quarterly targets and shareholder expectations. How does being nice translate to profitability? Happy employees are productive employees. Employees who feel valued don't leak information to competitors or ignore security threats because they're too burned out to care. Culture isn't separate from profitability. It's foundational to it." Noah looked around the table. "I'm not asking you to be nice. I'm asking you to be smart. Treat people well because it's the right thing to do, sure, but also because it's good business. Study after study shows that companies with strong ethical cultures outperform their competitors long term." Another executive young guy, tech bro energy, leaned back in his chair. "No offense, man, but you were a security guard last week. What makes you qualified to lecture us on leadership? Noah could have mentioned his military background, could have pulled rank with his combat experience and leadership credentials, but that wasn't who he wanted to be here. You're right, he said simply. I was a security guard last week. Before that, I was IT support. Before that, I was Army. And before all of that, I was a kid whose dad worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table and still found time to coach Little League. You want to know what qualifies me? I've been led by great leaders and terrible ones. I know the difference. And I've spent 6 years watching this company from the ground up, seeing how decisions made in rooms like this affect the people doing the actual work. I'm qualified because I've lived on both sides of the power dynamic, and I remember what it's like to be invisible. The room went quiet. Morrison broke the silence. Your first assignment is to develop a leadership training program. I want every executive, including myself, to go through it. You have 3 weeks to design it and 3 months to implement it. Budget is approved. Questions? Just one, Noah said. Are you actually willing to change, or is this performative? Because I won't waste my time or anyone else's on theater. Morrison studied him for a long moment. My daughter works in marketing here. She came home crying last week because her director yelled at her in front of her team for asking a question. When I asked her why she didn't report it, she said reporting it would just make her a target. That's when I realized we have a systemic problem. He leaned forward. I'm willing to change Mr. Cole. The question is whether everyone else in this room is. One by one, the executives around the table nodded. Some looked genuine. Some looked like they were just following the boss's lead. But they all agreed. It was a start. Tuesday morning came too quickly. Noah, dressed in one of his new button-down shirts, kissed Lily goodbye while Mrs. Chen promised to handle school pickup and drove downtown to the federal courthouse. Agent Chen met him at security, guiding him through metal detectors and elevators to a waiting room outside the grand jury chamber. You ready? As I'll ever be. Remember, answer only what they ask. Don't volunteer extra information. Stay calm. You're the star witness, but you're not on trial. Got it. And Noah Harmon's lawyers are going to try to paint you as some kind of vigilante. They'll bring up your military service, suggest you were looking for a fight, maybe even insinuate that you provoked the situation. Don't take the bait. I stopped 2 men from kidnapping someone. That's not vigilante behavior. That's basic human decency. I know that. You know that. Make sure the grand jury knows that. The testimony took 3 hours. 23 citizens sitting in a room listening as Noah described tracking 2 suspicious men, documenting their surveillance, making the split-second decision to intervene when he saw them grab Vivian. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s named Jennifer Wu, walked him through the evidence methodically. Photos. Timestamps. The moment he recognized the threat. The choice to act. Mr. Cole. Why didn't you call the police when you first identified these men as potential threats? Because I had observations but no proof of intent. I didn't want to waste law enforcement resources on what might have been paranoia. So I gathered information and waited to see if my instincts were correct. And when you saw them in the supermarket, I knew. Their positioning, their focus on Ms. Cross, the way they moved it was clearly coordinated. When one of them pulled a knife, I had to make a choice: protect my daughter by leaving or protect everyone by stopping the threat. I chose to stop it. Using a bottle of soda and a shopping cart. Using what was available. I'm trained in improvised weapons. Any object can be a tool if you understand leverage and timing. This training comes from your military service. Yes, ma'am. Can you elaborate? Noah took a breath. This was the part he'd been dreading. I served 2 tours as an Army Ranger. I was trained in hand-to-hand combat threat assessment, rapid response to hostile situations. That training doesn't disappear when you come home. It becomes part of how you see the world. Some might say that level of training makes you dangerous. Some might say that level of training makes me useful when someone's life is in danger. It depends on your perspective. Jennifer Wu smiled slightly. Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Cole. The grand jury foreman, an older man with kind eyes, spoke up. Mr. Cole, I have a question if I may. You had your young daughter with you during this incident. Weren't you concerned for her safety? Absolutely. That's why I had her close her eyes and count to 20. I wanted to neutralize the threat as quickly as possible, so she wouldn't be in danger any longer than necessary. But you could have left, taken your daughter and walked away. Noah met his eyes. I could have. But then those men would have taken Miss Cross, and who knows what would have happened to her. I teach my daughter that we help people who need help. I couldn't teach her that lesson with words and then abandon it with actions the moment things got difficult. She was watching. Kids are always watching. I had to show her that brave means showing up even when you're scared. The foreman nodded slowly. Thank you. That's a good answer. The grand jury deliberated for 40 minutes. Agent Chen bought Noah terrible courthouse coffee and tried to make small talk, but Noah's mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about Lily at school, learning about fractions, or reading, or whatever 8-year-olds learned on Tuesday mornings. Thinking about whether he'd done enough to protect her from the fallout of his choices. Jennifer Wu emerged from the grand jury room with a smile. They voted to indict. All charges. Conspiracy to kidnap, attempted kidnapping, corporate espionage. Harmon's going to trial, and your testimony was the linchpin. Well done. What happens now? Now the case goes to trial. You'll likely testify again. Harmon's lawyers will come at you harder, but you did great today. Just keep doing that. Noah nodded, feeling the weight of it. How long until trial? 6 months, maybe. These things take time. 6 months of looking over his shoulder. 6 months of wondering if Harmon would try something desperate. 6 months of Lily asking questions he didn't quite know how to answer. But also 6 months to build something good at Crosstech. 6 months to prove that change was possible. 6 months to show his daughter that doing the right thing, even when it was hard, was always worth it. He drove to Lily's school, arriving early, waiting in the parking lot. When she came running out, backpack bouncing, he scooped her up and held her tight. Daddy, you're squishing me. Sorry, sweetheart. Just happy to see you. Did the court people ask you questions? They did. I told them the truth, just like I always do. And they believed you? Yeah, honey, they believed me. Good. She wriggled out of his arms and climbed into her booster seat. Can we get ice cream? I had a hard math test, and I think I did good, but I'm not sure, and ice cream helps with not being sure. Noah laughed, genuine and full. Ice cream absolutely helps with not being sure. Let's go. They got ice cream, chocolate chip for her, coffee for him, and sat on a bench in the park, watching ducks paddle across a pond. Normal. Perfect. The kind of afternoon that made everything else worthwhile. Daddy? Lily's voice was small. Are the bad people going to come back? Noah's heart clenched. No, sweetheart. They're in jail, and there are good people making sure they stay there. But what if there are other bad people? Then Daddy will keep you safe. That's my job. That's what I'm best at. She leaned against his side, sticky with ice cream and trust. I know. You're the bravest person ever. Noah kissed the top of her head and promised himself silently that he would be worthy of that faith every single day, no matter what came next. Because being a hero wasn't about viral videos or grand gestures. It was about showing up for one little girl who believed her daddy could fix anything. And making sure that belief at least was never proven wrong. 3 months passed in a blur of change that felt both impossibly fast and achingly slow. Noah learned to navigate the strange duality of his new life mornings, with Lily making pancakes and practicing spelling words afternoons, teaching corporate executives that empathy wasn't weakness, and listening wasn't a luxury. He worked from home on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, his laptop open at the kitchen table, while Lily did homework beside him. Both of them focused on their own tasks, but together in the quiet companionship that defined their little family. The leadership training program launched in October, with 23 executives and a curriculum Noah had built from the ground up. Not theory from business school textbooks, but real practices grounded in what he'd learned leading soldiers who trusted him with their lives. How to give feedback that built people up instead of tearing them down. How to recognize when someone was struggling before they reached the breaking point. How to create psychological safety in teams so that speaking up didn't feel like career suicide. The first session had been tense. Noah stood in front of people who made 3 times his salary and had decades more corporate experience, and he'd asked them to do something radical, introduce themselves not by title, but by sharing one moment when someone's leadership had genuinely changed their life. The silence that followed had stretched for nearly a minute. Then Sandra Chen, the VP of Finance who'd questioned his qualifications in that first meeting, spoke up with a wavering voice. "My high school math teacher told me I was too quiet to ever be successful in business. She said girls like me, immigrant girls who barely spoke English, should aim for something more realistic than finance. I almost believed her. But my first boss at my first real job, he saw me struggling with a presentation, and instead of criticizing me, he stayed late 3 nights in a row helping me practice. He said my ideas were brilliant and my voice deserved to be heard. That's why I'm here. Because someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." By the end of that session, half the executives were crying. By the end of the third session, they were actually talking to each other like human beings instead of corporate chess pieces. By the end of the second month, Noah started getting emails from their direct reports saying things like, "I don't know what you're doing to my boss, but please keep doing it." The viral fame faded slowly the way these things did. The videos still circulated occasionally, usually with captions like, "Faith in humanity restored," or, "This is what real heroes look like." Noah ignored them. What mattered wasn't the internet's opinion, but the tangible changes happening at Crosstech, and more importantly, the fact that Lily still thought the coolest thing about her dad was that he could make pancakes look like bears. Vivian became an unexpected fixture in their lives. She showed up at Crosstech twice a week, not to the executive floor, but to the employee cafeteria, where she'd have lunch with different departments and actually listen. She funded 3 new employee wellness initiatives that Noah designed: mental health support, flexible work arrangements, and a mentorship program, pairing senior staff with new hires. She attended every one of Noah's leadership sessions, sitting in the back row, taking notes, wearing the friendship bracelet Lily had made her, like it was worth more than the diamond watch she'd replaced it with. One evening in early November, Noah's phone rang while he was helping Lily with a science project about the solar system. The caller ID showed Agent Chen. "Noah Cole." "Mr. Cole, it's Sarah Chen. I wanted to give you a heads up. Richard Harmon took a plea deal this afternoon. 20 years federal prison. No possibility of parole. He's going away for a long time." Noah felt something in his chest loosen a tension he hadn't fully realized he'd been carrying. "What about his network?" "The other operatives. We've arrested 14 people connected to the organization. 3 more trials pending, but Harmon was the linchpin. Without him, the whole operation collapsed." She paused. "You did this, Mr. Cole. Your testimony, your evidence, you took down an entire corporate espionage ring. I wanted you to know that." "I just did what needed doing." "I know. That's what makes it remarkable. Most people talk about doing the right thing. You actually do it." He could hear the smile in her voice. "Enjoy your evening with your daughter. You've earned some peace." After she hung up, Noah sat for a moment staring at the papier-mâché Jupiter Lily was painting with fierce concentration. "Was that about the bad people?" she asked without looking up from her planet. "Yeah, sweetheart. They're going to jail for a very long time." "Good. Now can you help me with Saturn's rings? They keep falling off." Noah laughed and helped her with the rings, thinking about how children had this gift for keeping you grounded. To Lily, stopping a corporate crime syndicate was less important than getting Saturn's rings right. And maybe she was onto something. Maybe the small, immediate things we did for the people right in front of us mattered just as much as the big dramatic gestures. The following Tuesday, Noah got an email from Campbell's Supermarket's general manager asking if he could stop by at his convenience. The phrasing was oddly formal, and Noah half expected them to ask him not to shop there anymore because his presence made other customers uncomfortable or something equally absurd. Instead, when he arrived with Lily after school pickup, he found a small crowd gathered near the checkout lanes. The manager, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Green, spotted him immediately. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming. We wanted to do something to commemorate what happened here, and we hoped you'd approve." She gestured to the wall near checkout lane 3, where a brass plaque had been mounted at eye level. Noah stepped closer, reading the inscription, "Not all heroes wear capes, some hold shopping lists." On this site, October 8, 2025, Noah Cole demonstrated that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose courage over comfort. May we all be inspired to help those who need help, especially when it's hard. Below the words was a small engraved image of a shopping cart and a bottle of soda. Noah felt his throat tighten. Lily squeezed his hand. "Daddy, they made you a special sign." "They sure did, sweetheart." Patricia stepped forward, her own eyes suspiciously bright. "We also wanted to give you this." She handed him a laminated card. "Lifetime discount 20% off everything. It's not much, but it's our way of saying thank you. Not just for what you did for Ms. Cross, but for what you taught all of us watching. Most of us stood there with our phones out recording. You showed us what we should have been doing instead. You don't need to. Please, let us do this. Let us remember that we can be better." Noah accepted the card, shook her hand, and let Lily drag him over to the plaque so she could take a picture with her kid's camera. She insisted on posing next to it, giving a thumbs up, completely unself-conscious about the fact that a dozen people were watching and smiling. As they walked through the store doing their regular shopping, because they still needed groceries regardless of plaques and recognition, several employees stopped to shake Noah's hand or tell him their own stories. The young cashier with pink-streaked hair who'd checked them out that night now wore a name tag that said Taylor, and confessed she'd enrolled in EMT training because watching Noah act in a crisis had inspired her to want to help people professionally. "I was just standing there filming like everyone else," she said quietly. "I felt so ashamed afterward. Like, what kind of person sees someone in danger and thinks, this will get views instead of, how can I help? So I decided to change, to be someone who actually does something." "That's really brave, Taylor. The world needs more EMTs." "The world needs more people like you, Mr. Cole." In the parking lot loading groceries into the car, Lily was unusually quiet. Noah glanced at her in the rearview mirror as he buckled her into her booster seat. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" "Everyone keeps saying you're a hero and you're special and you changed things. But you're still just my daddy who makes pancakes and helps with homework and can't sing very good." Noah smiled. "Can't sing very well. And you're right. I am just your daddy. But you're also the other thing, the hero thing. How can you be both?" It was the kind of question that deserved a real answer, not a dismissive platitude. Noah finished loading the groceries and sat in the driver's seat without starting the car, turning to look at his daughter properly. "You remember learning about metamorphosis? About how caterpillars become butterflies?" "Yeah, they dissolve and rebuild themselves into something new." "Right. Well, people are kind of like that, except we don't have to dissolve completely. We just add new parts to who we already are. I'm your daddy, first always. That's the most important part. But I'm also someone who used to be a soldier, and someone who works at a big company now, and someone who stopped some bad guys from hurting someone. All those parts are me. I didn't stop being one thing to become another. I just grew to hold more things at the same time." Lily processed this, her face scrunched in concentration. "Like how I can be a kid and a student and a daughter and a friend all at once." "Exactly like that. You're really smart, you know that?" "I know. You tell me all the time." She grinned, then grew serious again. "Daddy?" When I grow up, I want to help people too, like you do. But I don't want to have to fight bad guys. That seems scary. There are lots of ways to help people, sweetheart. You're already doing it. You made Ms. Cross a friendship bracelet when she needed kindness. You're nice to kids at school who don't have friends. You help Mrs. Chen carry her groceries. That's all helping people. But it's not hero stuff. Yes, it is. Being a hero isn't about dramatic rescues, Lily. It's about showing up with kindness when the world gives you chances to be cruel. It's about seeing someone who needs help and deciding to be the person who helps instead of the person who walks away. You do that every day. She smiled, satisfied with that answer. Okay, can we listen to my playlist on the way home? Absolutely. They drove home to pop music and off-key singing because Lily had inherited Noah's inability to carry a tune and the warm certainty that came from knowing exactly where you belonged. That weekend, Vivian called and asked if she could take them to dinner. Not at some fancy restaurant where Lily would have to sit still and be quiet, but at the pizza place Lily loved because they gave kids dough to play with while they waited for food. They met at 6, and Noah noticed immediately that Vivian looked different. Lighter somehow. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, minimal makeup, and when she smiled at Lily, it reached all the way to her eyes. I have news, she said after they'd ordered, and Lily was happily molding dough into shapes at the next table. I've been accepted into a leadership development program at Stanford. 6 months immersive focused on ethical business practices and transformational leadership. I start in January. That's amazing, Vivian, really. I'm nervous. I'll be the oldest person in the cohort by at least a decade. But I think I need it. I need to completely rebuild how I think about power and success. She fiddled with the friendship bracelet on her wrist. I wanted to ask, and please say no if it's too much, but would you be willing to be a reference for me? They ask for someone who's seen you at your worst and can speak to your capacity for growth. Noah laughed. I think I qualify on both counts. You do. And I trust you to be honest. If you don't think I've actually changed, if you think this is performative, tell them that. I need people in my life who will tell me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You've changed, Vivian. I see it in how you interact with people now. How you listen instead of just waiting to talk. How you ask questions instead of making assumptions. You're not the same person who humiliated me in that conference room. Thank God for that. She was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about what you said, about how real courage is doing the right thing even when it's scary. I was terrified the day I walked into the employee cafeteria for the first time. Terrified people would mock me or reject me. But I did it anyway because you taught me that fear isn't an excuse for inaction. You taught yourself that. I just reminded you. Lily ran back to the table, proudly displaying a dough sculpture of what might have been a dog, or possibly a dinosaur. Look, I made Mr. Buttons. That's beautiful, honey. Noah admired it seriously. What do you think, Vivian? I think it's the best dough sculpture I've ever seen. Can you make me one? Lily beamed. What do you want? Surprise me. She ran back to her dough project, and Vivian watched her with an expression Noah couldn't quite name. I don't have kids, she said quietly. I always told myself it was because I was too focused on my career. But the truth is, I was afraid I'd be a terrible mother, that I'd be as cruel to a child as my father was to me. She looked at Noah. Watching you with Lily, seeing how patient you are, how you make her feel safe enough to be herself, it makes me wonder if maybe I gave up on something important because I was too scared to try. It's not too late. You're what, 42? 44, and I know it's not technically too late, but I don't have a partner, and I don't even know if I'd be good at it. I've spent so long being hard that I don't know if I remember how to be soft. You're soft with Lily. You made her feel seen and valued. That's what kids need most to feel like they matter. She makes it easy. She's remarkable. She is. But she's also just a regular kid who needs the same things all kids need. Love, consistency, someone who shows up. If you decide you want to be a parent, Vivian, you could do it. You've proven you can change. That's the hardest part. Their pizza arrived, and Lily returned to the table with a dough creation she announced was a heart, because Ms. Vivian needed to know people cared about her. Vivian's eyes went bright, and she accepted the lumpy dough heart like it was made of gold. They ate and talked about normal things. Lily's upcoming school play where she was playing a tree, the upcoming holidays, Vivian's plans for Stanford. It felt like friendship, Noah realized. Not the transactional relationship between former CEO and employee, but genuine connection between people who'd been through something difficult and come out better on the other side. As they left the restaurant, Lily took both their hands, swinging between them. This was the best dinner ever. Can we do it again? Anytime you want, little one, Vivian said. I mean that. December brought the kind of cold that made Lily wear her puffy coat that turned her into a small mobile marshmallow. It also brought the holiday party at Crosstech, which Noah had been dreading until Morrison announced it would be casual, family-friendly, and focused on celebrating the year's genuine accomplishments, rather than forced corporate cheer. Noah brought Lily, who wore her favorite purple dress, and immediately found the dessert table. Other employees brought their families too, and the office transformed into something warm and human. Kids ran around while adults actually talked to each other like people instead of colleagues. Morrison found Noah by the punch bowl. Retention is up 18% since you started. Exit interviews now cite positive work culture as a reason people stay instead of toxic management as a reason they leave. The board is thrilled. The executives did the work. I just gave them tools. You gave them permission to be human. Turns out that was the tool they needed most. Morrison smiled. I got feedback from Sandra Chen's team. They said she actually apologized for being harsh with them last quarter. Apologized. Sandra Chen. That's your influence. Across the room, Noah spotted Sandra talking with Lily, showing her something on her phone. Lily laughed, and Sandra's face softened in a way Noah had never seen during business hours. People are capable of remarkable change when they feel safe enough to try, Noah said. You really believe that, don't you? That everyone can be better. I believe everyone deserves the chance to try. What they do with that chance is up to them. Later, as the party wound down, Vivian arrived not as the former CEO, but as a guest bringing boxes of cookies she'd apparently baked herself. They were lopsided and oversugared, and Lily declared them the best cookies she'd ever tasted. I'm not a natural baker, Vivian admitted, laughing at the misshapen treats. But I'm learning. Turns out there are a lot of basic life skills I never developed, because I was too busy working. They taste like love, Lily said seriously. That's what matters. Vivian crouched down to Lily's level. I wanted to thank you, Lily, for the bracelet you made me. I wear it every day, and every time I see it, I remember that I can choose to be better. You taught me that. You're welcome. And when you go to your school in January, you should make friendship bracelets for everyone there. It helps people remember to be nice. That's excellent advice. I'll do that. Watching them, Noah felt a profound sense of completion. This was what redemption looked like, not grand gestures or public apologies, but small moments of genuine connection. Vivian on her knees talking to an 8-year-old about friendship bracelets, her entire body language open and humble and real. As they drove home that night, Lily asked the question Noah had been expecting for weeks. Daddy, why did you really help Miss Vivian that day at the store? You said it's because that's what we do, but she was mean to you. You could have just walked away. Noah pulled into their apartment parking lot and turned off the car, giving the question the weight it deserved. You're right. I could have walked away. And part of me wanted to because she had hurt my feelings, and I was still angry about it. But then I thought about what I wanted you to learn from watching me. Did I want you to learn that we only help nice people? Or did I want you to learn that we help people who need help, period? That helping isn't about whether someone deserves it. It's about who we choose to be. So you helped her because of me. I helped her because it was the right thing to do. But I also helped her because you were watching, and I wanted to show you what it looks like to choose kindness even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because that's when it matters most. Lily unbuckled herself and climbed into the front seat, wrapping her arms around his neck. I love you, Daddy. You're the best teacher. I love you too, sweetheart. More than all the stars. Times infinity plus 1. Times infinity plus 1,000,000. She giggled, and they sat there in the quiet car, holding each other, two people against the world enough. Upstairs, Noah helped Lily get ready for bed and tucked her in under her glow-in-the-dark stars. As he was leaving, she called him back. Daddy, I updated my list again. Want to see? She handed him the purple crayon paper now worn from being folded and refolded. At the bottom below, all the other additions she'd written in her careful block letters. Be brave, like Daddy. Help people who need help. Second chances are important. Kindness is stronger than mean. Noah felt tears prick his eyes. This is perfect, Lily. Those are the things that matter, right? Not the hero stuff, the everyday stuff. Yeah, honey, that's exactly what matters. He kissed her forehead and turned out the light, standing in the doorway for a moment, watching her drift to sleep. This was his legacy. Not the viral videos, or the plaque at the supermarket, or the corporate changes at Crosstech. This child learning to move through the world with courage and compassion. This was the work that mattered. His phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. Thank you for tonight, for everything. I'm going to be better, I promise. Noah typed back, You already are. Keep going. He made himself tea and sat on the couch thinking about the strange journey from that Tuesday evening at Campbell's supermarket to this quiet December night. How one moment of choice to act instead of walk away had created ripples that kept spreading. Taylor training to be an EMT, Sandra Chen apologizing to her team, Vivian going back to school to learn how to lead with heart, executives learning to see their employees as humans, a little girl understanding that heroism was just another word for showing up. Outside, snow began to fall the first of the season. Inside Noah's small apartment was warm and safe and exactly enough. He touched the red string bracelet on his wrist, feeling the lumpy knots, and thought about all the ways love manifested itself. In friendship bracelets and bedtime stories. In choosing to help someone who'd hurt you because your daughter was watching, and lessons taught through action lasted longer than words. The viral videos would eventually disappear from the internet, replaced by newer content, fresher dramas. The news cycle would move on. The attention would fade completely. But the changes would remain. The people who'd learned to be kinder. The culture that had shifted from fear to trust. The little girl who knew bone deep that her daddy would always show up, and that showing up was what made heroes real. Noah finished his tea, checked that the door was locked, and stopped in Lily's room one more time. She slept peacefully. Mr. Buttons tucked under her arm, her purple crayon list on the nightstand beside her bed. He thought about what he'd tell her someday when she was old enough to really understand. That courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. That real strength was soft enough to bend without breaking. That the most important battles weren't fought with weapons, but with patience and kindness, and the stubborn belief that people could change. But she already knew all that. He'd taught her through every choice he'd made, every example he'd set, every moment he'd chosen to be the father she needed rather than the soldier he'd been. Tomorrow he'd make pancakes, help with homework, pick her up from school at 3 o'clock exactly, continue teaching executives that empathy was a competitive advantage, live the quiet, unremarkable life of a single father doing his best, and that would be enough, more than enough. That would be everything. Because heroes didn't need capes or recognition or viral fame. They just needed to show up, to help people who needed help. To teach the next generation that kindness was stronger than cruelty, and that second chances were always worth giving. Noah turned off the lights and went to bed ready for whatever tomorrow brought, knowing that as long as Lily believed in him, he could handle anything. The story would spread the single dad who stopped kidnappers with Sprite and paper towels. But the real story was quieter. It was a father raising his daughter to be brave and kind. It was a CEO learning to be human. It was a company discovering that treating people with dignity was good for everyone. It was ordinary people doing extraordinary things simply because someone had shown them it was possible. And in the end, that was the only story that mattered. Not the dramatic rescue, but the 1,000 small choices afterward. The decision to keep showing up, to keep being better, to keep teaching and learning and growing, to keep helping people who needed help, especially when it was hard, especially then.